everyone. Hello. It's Dr. Manjiri Nadkarni, Ayurvedic MD, registered holistic nutritionist, back today for another amazing topic. I was just trying to adjust the light and it fell off, so that was funny. Okay, so today is something that we are going to discuss, which I don't think I've talked a lot about, but this is something that I see in my practice quite a bit. And the topic that we're going to talk about is histamine intolerance, right? So, if you are someone who has been having a lot of skin rashes, if you are someone who has been having a lot of symptoms like allergies, if you're trying to do everything in your power but you're just taking antihistamines and that's the only thing that's working for you, if you are someone who has been breaking out immediately after eating, those are some signs that you have histamine intolerance. And it is something that is not understood. You could have diarrhea, you could have bloating, you could have nausea, and some people will think, oh, I've just got a stomach bug. Sometimes there will be rash or hives, and then you may think that, oh, it's just a reaction to dust or something. And this is one of the reasons why histamine intolerance often can go unnoticed. And that is why we are going to discuss about it. So, what are, certain foods we will be talking about in the entire session. Now, interestingly, from an Ayurvedic perspective, we look at histamine as a fiery molecule or a pitta category molecule. So, people who are generally A type personalities, people who are highly motivated, always on the go, super competitive, really uh, classical pitta personality, sharper features, lighter colored hair, lighter colored eyes, lots of moles, freckles. So, those are the people who are typically prone to getting this histamine intolerance. And often, this will go unnoticed. And it could not just affect your physical body, but it could also affect your mood. And that is why we are going to discuss all about histamine intolerance today. So, give me a minute and I'm just going to open up my notes. Perfect. So let's talk about histamine. Like, what exactly is this histamine that we keep talking about? So, histamine is nothing but it is an organic compound secreted in the body. It is typically formed by immune cells, basophils, eosinophils, mast cells, all those involved in the allergic reactions they will create it. There are four different types of histamine. H1, H2, H3, and H4. H2 is typically secreted in your digestive lining, and that is why it is extremely important to understand why this histamine intolerance can affect you. And when we look at histamine intolerance, it will have certain signs and symptoms where you are, you could have itchy skin, you could have itchy ears, nose, you could have a lot of hives, you may have a lot of swelling in your face, especially in the face region and the throat region. Often it can lead somebody to have a really low blood pressure. Suddenly the blood pressure drops. There may be anxiety, panic attacks associated. There may be depression, chest tightness, chest pain, nasal congestion, headaches, frequent migraines, digestive issues. All these can go unnoticed, or you may think that it could be from something else. So, how does histamine work? Histamine is secreted in the body. An example is, if you get an insect bite, you will experience itching, swelling, and that is one type where you know that, okay, it's the job of histamine is to mediate the healing process. But often the healing process doesn't work as well, and rather what ends up happening is, your immune system can get triggered, your central nervous system can also get triggered. So where it's necessary to prevent infections, to uh, help with insect bites, because any of the poison that's secreted or toxin secreted via insect bites or dust mites, they are countered by mast cells, which is a flag for the immune system. But at the same time, you could have high inflammation, because too much of this histamine is going to create more inflammation in your body, and often you are not breaking it down. So there are two main components of the histamine. One is that you are going to two main components of why you could have histamine intolerance. One is you're either making too much histamine, right? So pitta type personalities will naturally make more histamine. Gut dysbiosis, certain kinds of bacteria. So if you're taking a certain kind of probiotic that's not working for you and you have allergies, you may make more of this histamine, and it could often aggravate the symptoms related to histamine. I've had clients where they were taking probiotics and the rashes worsened because the probiotics had certain strains of probiotics that were responsible for creating more histamine in the system. The second one is the most common one, is the inability to break it down, right? So if you have impaired methylation, we talk about the methylation disorders, or defective genes, MTFHR. So that could be one of the cause. Not enough histamine degrading gut bacteria, because that's one of their job. And then there is another problem with what's called diamine oxide production. So diamine oxidase is the enzyme that is going to break the histamine down. So if you are not having enough diamine oxidase, you're making the histamine, but you're not breaking it down. And certain foods that people absolutely love, and they will eat all the time, which are healthy foods. When we talk about healthy kind of sourdough bread, for example, or you're talking about spinach, you're talking about tomatoes, you're talking about avocado. So all these healthy foods can create your body to push more histamine into the system, right? So bananas are known foods that will trigger you to release more histamine. Tomatoes, spinach, eggplant, avocado are histamine containing foods. Vinegars, pickled vegetables, yeasts are something that will have a lot of histamine in it. And then things like chocolate, for example, will make you liberate more histamine. So that is the reason why you need to be aware of histamine intolerance. So this is the topic for today. Just so, what are some signs and symptoms of histamine intolerance? So, histamine intolerance, as I said, there are a lot of physical signs and symptoms. Typically, allergic reactions, allergy like symptoms, are related to histamine or can be related to histamine. Hives, rashes, swelling of any tissues, nasal congestion, anxiety, panic attack. One of the signs is you eat something and you start sneezing. So this is a common sign I've seen in my clients. And then you can also see some behavioral changes. So often, you can see that there can be a lot of anxiety, there can be a lot of depression, there can be extreme low mood in cases of histamine intolerance. So those need to be talked about. So this is just a short introduction to histamine. I want you to let me know if you are having any signs or symptoms of histamine intolerance. And for the next session, we are going to go a little bit into details of how to test for histamine intolerance, and what are some strategies to use to understand whether you have histamine intolerance or not. So that's going to be for our second session. Thanks